Guys, it's Fonzie with DipYourCar.com, world famous peelable auto paint. Now what we're showing you today is more of an advanced level trim masking technique, not something that is necessary, especially on the DIY level. However, the more people that continue to use DipYourCar products, they're looking for the process to evolve, ways to get better, ways to get a cleaner, more precise finish. So let me walk you through a technique here and a new material that we're going to be using. Enjoy the video. Now let's take a look at the problem first, and then we can identify what options we have for solutions. The problem on this car that we're dealing with is that on this car, which is a Volkswagen Golf, along with a lot of other Volkswagens and even a lot of other automakers, the window trim is a thin strip of rubber that lays directly up against and makes direct contact with the body of the car. Now, why does that pose a challenge to you as a dipper? Well, with the window trim laying directly up against the body of the car, there's no gap there. If you've ever used Plasti Dip before or seen it used, you know that we like to see a gap between one surface and another because that's going to automatically cut the Plasti Dip as it's drying, so that if there was a gap between this window trim and the car, we'd be able to peel all our masking material away after it dries, and it'll automatically cut a nice clean line for us. As the rubber window seal lays up against the body of the car, we have no gap there, meaning as we lay our nice thick heavy wet coats of Plasti Dip, that dip is going to seal over the edge of the window trim and essentially bridge the two together. Now where the problem lies is that as the Plasti Dip dries completely, if that's bridged and sealed together, when you go to pop that door open, instead of having a nice clean line there, you're going to have a jagged edge all the way down. It's going to be torn. It's not going to look good at all. What options do you have? Well, the first option that you have is essentially the most DIY friendly option, but not necessarily the cleanest. And that's as you continue to spray your Plasti Dip, on the last wet coat, you pop that door open, and opening that door will essentially, while the dip is still wet, cut that seam for you. Now it'll essentially give you a nice straight line, but it's not going to be the cleanest, it's not going to be the best. Another option that's DIY friendly that a lot of our customers do is essentially line the edge of the window trim. After masking all this off, you come back in with a secondary line of yellow tape, which has a nice strong adhesive and crisp edge. You line the edge of the window trim all the way around. Now again, on your last coat while the dip is still wet, you come in and you peel that extra outside line of yellow masking tape all the way around. While the dip is still wet, it'll cut nice and easy, and you'll be able to create yourself a line. Now that line is going to be much cleaner and more precise than just popping the door open. However, is there an even better way? Because between the first two options that I gave you, the trouble is that there's no dip at all that's gone beyond and behind this rubber seal. The problem with that is you've got almost an exposed edge between where the dip stops and where this rubber seal is. What we have is an advanced option for you that will allow you to get some dip behind that rubber seal, so that instead of the rubber seal and the dip touching edge to edge, the rubber seal will be lifted away and we'll be able to get some dip behind it. The rubber seal will lay on top of it. That's your best chance for the cleanest look and the most durability long term. Let me show you how we're going to get that done. Now what we're going to be using today is 3M trim masking tape. Now this comes in a variety of different styles and sizes. This is the 15 millimeter. You can get this at a paint or body retail store, or you can get it on a couple different online retailers, Amazon, things like that. Now what it is, if you haven't seen it before, is essentially a combination product. It's got an adhesive strip on one side and a rigid, hard plastic edge on the other. What we're going to do is cut it into pieces. I usually start pretty small, around 3 to 4 inches long. And what we're going to do is take the scissors and we're going to just snip up about every inch, inch and a half. And what that's going to do as we open that up is give it a little bit more flexibility. Now we're going to remove the adhesive side, or the adhesive backing, and we're going to apply this bit by bit across the window trim. Now we're going to take it with the adhesive side facing down. We're going to slide the hard plastic piece underneath the window trim as far back as we can go, and then we're going to take the adhesive side and we're going to pull the window trim away from the body of the car and then stick it down nice and snug. Now what that's going to do is essentially hold that window trim away from the car, and there's that gap that we're looking for. That's essentially going to help us get the Plasti Dip product back on the car, wrapped around this edge behind the window trim, so as we continue to spray our coats, that's going to wrap down behind. When we're done, we peel up the window masking, and that rubber flap is going to lay right back on top of the dip that we laid. Now let's do a couple more pieces so you can see how it's done. Now again, we're going to take another piece, maybe just a little bit longer this time. Do a couple cuts about an inch, inch and a half apart. We're going to remove the adhesive backing and then adhesive side down. Overlap the spot that we just did just a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch or so, to make sure it's consistent. Pull the trim away and essentially lay the adhesive down. And as you can see, as we continue to move down the window trim here, we're going to be pulling away the edge of that flap away from the edge of the car. We're going to work our way all the way down around the edge of the car now. Now this window is completely prepped, masked, taped, and ready for spray. The trim tape is all the way worked around the edge of the window, even around the corners. As you come to corners and round areas, that's really when small pieces and snipping up into the adhesive is going to help, so that the flexibility is there so it can curve all the way around. You want to take your time, make sure you don't miss any areas, and then come in and you're going to seal it with the yellow tape all the way around. Now before or after that process, based on personal preference, is when you're going to get your tape and drape in place to cover the entire area or surface of the window. So this is going to be ready to go, and what we'll be able to do is come in all the way around without worrying with our coats of Plasti Dip, and we're going to get some Plasti Dip back behind the edge of the window trim. And when we're done spraying, we come in after it's dried, we remove all of this masking material around the window, and we allow that window trim flap to go back and lay up against the body of the car, essentially on top of the dip that we laid behind it. Very, very cool technique. Now the 3M trim masking tape is locally available for you if you have any specialty painting stores near you, or you can get it from a ton of different online retailers as well. It's not something we carry directly at DipYourCar.com, but if it'll help you perform your project a little bit more accurately, of course we want to share that technique with you. Now this is not something new. This technique and this material has been used in the auto painting world for a very long time, and although that dipping and auto painting are very different in some ways, there is some crossover, and believe it or not, there's some things that you can do on either side that are relevant to the other. Now it's Fonzie from DipYourCar.com. Everything you need to dip your car is available for you, of course, at DipYourCar. If you have any questions, email our customer service team or call in during business hours. I'll see you in the next video.